Hi everyone, good morning. And a special good morning to all of you who are up extra late. I know it's a bit hard for you to be here, but we are glad for you to be here. I'm happy to be back on the stage, obviously not this early in the morning, but one of the things that happened yesterday, as I was sitting in here, I was watching the countdown screens and I kept seeing myself and I did not necessarily like it. So it's those candid shots that you get that you have to kind of deal with. And so just a bit of a housekeeping item. I'm gonna have to put my glasses on to read, but that's not my best side. So I'm gonna take them off. So if you're taking any pictures, just take them when I don't have my glasses on. All right, so a lot of what we're gonna talk about today is about B2B marketplaces. And quite honestly, Paul, Alex, and Vero in their panel yesterday did our job. So they teed it up perfectly for us. And so I'm going to turn it over to my co-panelist to introduce herself, and then we'll get into it.
Good morning, everybody. I know it's the first session, so we're going to try to make it lively and entertaining. Well, my name is Patricia. I'm the CEO and founder of Roibos. Roibos is a marketplace, and I'm really looking forward to this session this morning.
I'm excited to get into this, and I said earlier that basically this whole conversation was teed up yesterday when we talked about B2B distribution, has it just renamed wholesale. And I think that a lot of the challenges and things that we've talked about in that space, we've lived in that space for a while, are things that each of us, we know very well. But I think this concept of marketplaces is something that may look to alleviate some of those pain points that were mentioned yesterday. So let's set the stage, and Patricia, could you help us to understand what is a marketplace?
Absolutely. This is a new player within the B2B distribution, and what it is, it's a platform that allows direct connectivity between the chain hotels, and the travel distributors or the travel partners in a very easy, effective, direct manner. What we've done is technology, digitalize everything within the relationship between a hotel chain or hotel, independent hotel, and the demand partners. What it is, it's just not, I've got some slides, so it might help us on this presentation. So what we does is simplifies contracting. At the end of the day, what we discussed yesterday and what we heard from the panel is what they're after is transparency. Is one of the words that came across yesterday quite a few times. And this allows transparency. You can see all across the system or the platform who you're working with, how you want to work with them, how do you want to interact, what commissions, who do you want to work with, and who do you don't want to work with. So it gives you direct connectivity. At the end of the day, it's direct contracting. Another point that we touched, it was the complexity of the technologies, of data, lots of data. It was heavy, lots of integrations, lots of technology. So what we try with the marketplace is simplify that with cache integrations, reduce the pressure on the data. We also talked yesterday about parity control. That's another issue that we try to cover. So the marketplaces are here because they heard the pains that the hotel chains are having and the pains that the demand partners are having, and we try to mitigate all those pains. It is not just a commercial arrangement, these marketplaces. It also tries to fix the payment scenario. So it is not just an ecosystem for commercial relationship, but also for payments. Mm-hmm. So normally it's based on VCC, but some of the big chains, they want to work with certain players. They don't have VCC arrangements, so what they do is they work with BTGs or with wallets, and we allow all those FinPays that we've been hearing all these, well, the couple of days here in this stage. So, but at the end of the day, what you don't want is to be shifting business from one channel to another. What you want is incremental business, and that's, I think, that's what in general marketplaces bring to the table. What they bring, or how we do it, or how the marketplace do it, is bring lots of AI. and a lot of parity control. They give you the tools to come back, to keep the control back to the hotelier. And if the hotelier has the control of the rates, then you can avoid upsetting customers with different parities, violations, etc., etc. So that's what we do, or in general, what marketplaces do.
So could you share a little bit of who are some other players in the space? I know we're talking about some of those benefits and some of the challenges, and we'll get into that in just a second. But talk through some of the other players in the space and how you see Roibos best positioned to help some of the people in the room.
The other players in the market, we all have different USPs, obviously. We are a very new type of player within the industry. So I can say there are probably about 2, 3 of us, perhaps, in the industry. And we all have different visions. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, we try to do the same. Direct connectivity between the hotel and the travel distributors.
Yeah. And I think when we were kind of talking about this idea of B2B marketplaces, we were looking at it as if it's sort of a new model that hoteliers have to grapple with. You want to say anything a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. I mean, yesterday, I think it was Paul that was mentioning, how do you see the industry in 5 years' time? And, it was like transparency, a lot of transparency. And I think that's where the model starts. It's listening to all the different players, i.e. hotel chains, independent hotels, and the travel partners, and it's trying to just give them the aim and the tools and the panel to control that distribution. So transparency, control, it's just a result of what we're hearing in these sessions here today.
And I think the good thing that we were kind of talking about is that from a Roibos perspective, from these marketplace perspectives, we can talk about those pain points, but you alluded to it that you all are providing the tools. And I think that's a huge piece of it. We need the tools to be able to have that level of control.
About the tools, what we've done, or what we are doing, because it's an evolving tool and it is so different from where we started 3 years ago to what it is today, because of course we went through a big change within the industry in the last 3 years because of the pandemic. So what we've built with the parity control is give you the tools to monitor. We scrape the different OTAs and meta searches, and we listen to who is selling your room accommodation, occupancies, etc., below your rates. So what we do is we deliver, we monitor, we notify to you, we create alerts, and with those alerts, what you can do is create automations. So the automation says within 48 hours, close, if the offender has not made a change, switch them off. After the third time we notify them that they're offending, switch them off for a week or a month. So we're giving all the tools that you need. So you don't need as many resources, you don't need such a big team to control your rate violations or your parity rates. What you just need is the tool, and that's what we've given you to simplify the control of your distribution.
I think one of the things that if you are able to have that level of control and be able to turn people off and things like that, the big question really comes up around the contracting aspect and what are those terms in there. And I think when we were talking, one of the things I mentioned was, for, let's say, the brands, the chains that are in the room of that nature and entities of that nature, the question I have is how can you, Roibos marketplaces, yes, simplify the contracting process, but at the same time, give me what I call the warm and fuzzies, that I'm okay, that those terms are enough to protect me and how I want to engage in the marketplace. But at the same time, make sure that those terms are attractive enough that people want to do business with me.
What we've done and what marketplaces do is you sign just the one contract with the marketplace, and the marketplace set out the rules of how to play within the marketplace. Mm-hmm. When you can process the VCC. Also, if you actually, can't deliver that room and you're going to make changes, how you have to behave, how you have to compensate, and how the travel distributors are going to follow your cancellation policies. So really, in a way, the contract itself is the booking. So you only sign once with Roibos or the marketplace, and the distributors only sign once with the marketplace, but automatically it doesn't matter if today we've got 100 distribution partners or 200 tomorrow, you automatically contracted with them with this general marketplace. So when we talk about marketplaces, and we're not doing publicity here, but I always think of Amazon. You actually, when you buy on Amazon, you accept the terms and conditions of Amazon, but you are buying from that specific supplier, and he has to follow those rules. So that's the policy, that marketplace. So it really simplifies the contracting. And what I really got from yesterday was one of the points that Alex and Paul were discussing on the stage, and it was three-party conversation or three-party agreements. In the old days, when you're talking 20 years ago, I was working in a travel agency in Spain, and you always had two players. I was a DMC, so we had the tour operator come in, and then we had the hotelier. So there were always three on the table. Then in the last 10, 15 years, it all became very digital, no manual contracts, so perhaps there was no need to see or to know the last B2B player. But with marketplaces, we shorten again that long process. So we actually tell them who is actually delivering that booking, and how is he playing. So we've shortened, and the contracting, the three people or the three parties on the table, you can see them exactly within Roibos. You've got the hotelier and you've got the B2B player who is actually going to send you the VCC or the payment directly to your hotel from arrival or check-in.
So within this marketplace, and let me walk it through, because I love to simplify things as much as possible. So as a hotelier, the expectation would be that I would sign one agreement and define what the terms are for operating from my perspective. And then any number of wholesalers or B2B marketplace participants can sign up to that marketplace and get access. Do I get to choose who I'm doing business with?
Absolutely.
Or can anyone just join and then get access?
What we do is everybody can play. So what we've done is we segment all those players into 5 segments: the B2B, the B2B2C, the tour operators, the closed groups, and I'm missing one, and the OTAs. And within those groups, you can put the rules of how you want to play or deal with those different segments. So if I'm a chain, I might want to say, right, this group, I'm going to give them between 10 and 15% commission, this group between 15 and 20% commission. But then you can drop down the list and you can say, right, with this specific agent, I'm going to do a lot of business with, so I'm going to give them an incentive. I'm going to increase the commission. But with this other one, I rather don't work, because guess what? I don't want to work with that market. Another thing that is very easy, the marketplaces, is we were talking yesterday about India. India being one of the most, increasing and emerging markets, and more than 100 million people now have passports to travel overseas. Well, within our system, you are an independent hotel or a chain, and you filter and you say, right, I only want to see who are the players in India, because I want to make some marketing specific or deal specifically with those guys, source market India. So you can filter and see who are the players in India that are going to send me lots of wedding, groups, etc., and you can filter. So what we're trying to do is give you as much information and the tools and the means to interact and relate with all those, wherever in the world, no matter what type of group you are, a tour operator, B2B, OTA, etc. You've got a way to communicate within the marketplace.
Yes, that's awesome. And so the other thing that jumped out to me when we were talking about this, and you've touched on it a little bit, and maybe if you go back a couple slides, it was about parity. As hoteliers, that's a huge thing for us. And I chuckle a bit in the conversation yesterday when, I believe it was Alex mentioned, when we talked about parity. And he's like, yeah, we're coming and we're sitting at the table with you as well, saying, hey, yes, what about parity? And for hoteliers and I can say, hopefully speak for all of us in that we want our business direct. So we inherently want parity because we want to make sure that people know that ourbrand.com is where you're going to get the best rate. Now, I won't point fingers, but there's been some people who kind of giving customers the impression that that's not the case. So parity is absolutely critical for us. And so in giving those tools to us where, even in the example you just used of, I want to go and I want to source information from, or I want to source a specific market, are you still also helping me to kind of keep up and manage and make sure that I may be offering something here, but I'm not damaging parity or any of my efforts around maintaining my parity? What
we do is we notify you. We tell you where there is parity, in what different channels or meta searches there is a violation, and we give you the notifications and the automation, and you set up the rules. You set up the rules to decide how you want to play with that offender, if you want to call it that way, and therefore, it's not just about giving you the information, it's about how you respond to that information. But we go one step after, and we give you the reports, because after a while, you identify that there is a pattern with the rate violation. So you know today is this one, but tomorrow is that one. But you can identify it's always on this type of room, or it's always on this occupancy, or it's always over the weekends. And you identify the patterns, and then you can prevent. So it's not just about stopping it, it's about preventing it, what we're trying to do. So I think... and I think that also connects back to that conversation around it being a new model. Because now having a tool like this, then you need to build the governance around it, about how do I manage, maintain, and continuously monitor all of the different players I'm connecting to, and making sure that they're being good actors with my rates. So I just want to pause here. If you do have questions, you can submit them through the app. You may need to go in and refresh if you want to ask any questions, but we'll open it up for questions. We do have a couple, and so we'll start answering them, but if you do have others, please feel free to ask them in the app. So the first question we'll tackle is, how is the marketplace different from the GDS? I think because the control is with the hotelier. They work directly with all the different partners. They can decide on a live environment who they want to work with or not. You don't need to contract each of them individually and make a contract and do an integration. So it's a much easier, friendly, easier manner to work, perhaps, than a GDS. Okay. The next question we have is, who do you see as the other emerging partners in this segment? And I think you've kind of mentioned some, but you also mentioned that those partners they have sort of different priorities. They're a little bit different. Can you explore that a little bit more? It's because we're so emerging at the moment that we're all trying to find our space. I mean, one of them is Hyperguest. I don't know if you heard of them. They're probably their positioning, the technology is fantastic. We were born, both of us, I think between 1 or 2 months, and we didn't know of each other. So I think that's probably the more direct competitor or partner that we have within this segment. But then there are other players that, they try to position themselves, but they don't do exactly what we do. So, but the direct competitor, I would say, is Hyperguest. How does content work and get disseminated in this
Or is this purely rates and inventory?
No, it's everything. We display through AI. One of the slides I think we presented. What we do is we translate automatically into 9 languages. So all the content comes directly from the source, automatically translated into 9 languages. The European ones, and then you have some of the Arabics, Indian, etc., etc. And about the photography as well, it comes directly. So through algorithms, we display not just the rates, but also, as we said, it's an ecosystem, not just for commercials, and commercials is rates plus the static content, but also the financial, the payment ecosystem. So it's a 360 marketplace.
So let me ask dig into that a little bit more, especially around the content. So again, very simplifying it for myself. I do an agreement with you, and obviously I'm going to set up the terms of how I want to interact with the marketplace. With specific regard to the content, yes, I'm going to give you rates and availability, right? That's going to go out. But am I in a position to tell you how I want you to get my content and decide that, hey, if anyone's going to do business with me through this place, I can determine how they get content?
That's yes and no.
Okay.
Yes is you will be giving us your content. What we cannot control is how that tour operator is going to show your content. But we, for sure, we only take the content directly from the source. Okay. And that's what marketplaces tend to do. They don't take the content from the internet or different channels. They take it directly from the source. But then you have different operators that they may want to elaborate on the content because, you know, it becomes for Google searches, etc. It's better, and it comes as high on the ranking. So, but what we do is we always send the content from the source. We don't use third-party content.
Yeah, and that's a huge piece of it, right? So when we see a lot of these bad actors, I'll call them, in the space, yes, they're subverting us on rate and things like that by not properly marking it up, but are they actually telling the true story of what that experience is going to look like at that hotel? And so that's a key piece of it as well, that we should probably keep in mind with these marketplaces. And maybe that even is something that you guys can look to in terms of the contracting process, where we can be more clear about how you get content and how we make sure that you are getting my rates and availability, but how are you also telling a true story about that? So our next question is, how does the fintech solution work? Can commissions be split at point of sale? Can you go a little bit more into the payments piece, especially for Roibos?
At this moment, the solution is that the VCC always travels with the net rate. So the commission is already kept by the travel distributor or the travel partner, and the VCC or the BTG travels with the net. So it's the travel partner doesn't have to wait 30 or 60 days to collect the commission. He keeps the commission, or they keep the commission, and the VCC go for the net rate.
I think there was a question, it dropped off, about who was merchant of record, but...
The merchant of record is the travel partner.
Okay, yes. So you said the merchant of record is the travel partner?
The travel partner. Okay. Roibos is just a technology that allows this to happen, but the merchant of record is the travel partner.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, I see some more coming up, sorry about that. Some OTAs are building their version of B2B products in marketplaces. What differentiates you and some of the other players in your space from the likes of some of the bigger brands, the bigger travel brands that are also doing a similar thing?
I think it's the transparency. I mean, reading out the question it makes the example of Booking Holdings, for instance, how they create in the B2B scenario. It's Booking will control who they distribute to. In the marketplace, the control is down to the hotelier. They decide who they want to work with. So you don't have someone who stops the transparency. You always see who is the one that's going to send you the credit card payment, the VCC. So I think that's the main difference. And of course, the OTAs, there was a very valid good valid point yesterday from one of the sessions, and it just left me.
Well, while you find your thoughts, thinking about that as well is, and we talked about this as well, because obviously my company has made certain choices as well, in that you have to, there's a balance, right? You have to, depending on the hotel, whether it's an independent property, a small chain, large chain, you have to make some decisions for yourself. And yes, I think these marketplaces provide a lot of great tools, but you also have to grapple with the question of, do I have the resources to manage that? Because that's a huge part of it. Do I have the people in place who can monitor and look at that dashboard and things of that nature? So I think that's what that question is really coming to, is how do you differentiate yourself? And I think transparency, I think, is one part of it. But are there other things that you might want to?
Well, we give you the visibility of who are the offenders. So if you have a team that is at the moment checking who is offending, we actually are giving you that information for given. You can see every morning, who is trying to offend and who offended yesterday. And then you can make the decision. So with the same team, I guess, if the information is already given to you, you don't have to do the exercise of finding out the information. The information is in front. So you just have to act about that information. So I think that's perhaps a way to allocate the resources, I think we've got the same questions now.
Are they the same? Any other questions? Anything else you might want to speak on that we haven't covered?
I think we covered a lot for the first session this morning, actually.
Without putting you guys to sleep, I think we did a good job. So if there are no other questions, thank you so much.
Thank you, April.
Thank you.